All this time, you know.
I've been saying Tez. But you
No, but I just go by Tez.
Noted for her. Noted for her. Shout out, noted for her.
Cheers! Yeah, special guest. You can introduce yourself.
So, Tez, T, noted for her.
And it's T.
Okay. Like, what do you do? Like,
I think you got to tell the story about how we found her.
Yeah?
Basically, they've been stalking my page.
Wow.
And I came across one of their podcasts. So I thought, okay, these were always on my...
Why is it a podcast? Like,
their podcast, isn't it? Because they've got some very interesting stories. So obviously I kept on seeing them on the TL, and then I thought, you know what? Let me actually listen to one of their episodes. And I'm not gonna lie, ended up being a groupie. Been listening ever since.
Day one as well, you know. Day one.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just blogging, and I'm in uni, going into my third year. So.
What are you studying?
Media, culture, and identity.
Cool. Yeah, I think I must have just seen her on like the timeline, and like she started like obviously she followed us, and then like we did the vision boards. And she was like, I'm gonna do a vision boards, and I was like, okay, cool. And she actually did one, and I was like, oh raw. This girl's okay. Then I was like, and it was a pretty good vision board, and then like she obviously started like tweeting us, and like we started atting her like thank you, grateful and stuff, and then found out she had a blog, went onto her site, read a few of the blogs, and I was like, she can actually write. Because on Twitter it's just 140 characters. You don't really get a grasp of someone's like character. But away from the blog, like going on the blog, I was like, okay, this person's got a bit of personality. She's alright, doesn't seem too crazy, and like now she's there. Yeah.
But it was really the episode. Well, not episode. I'm gonna say. Why am I saying episode? It was the blog post, Lost Ones, that really got us. Because I remember, I read it. Did you read it before or after I mentioned it?
No, it was before. I did.
It was just like, wait, like. We're gonna go into it. We're gonna talk about the topic, but it had me just going, rah, like I haven't experienced that yet, and it takes someone to be vulnerable to kind of express and share that sort of story. So it brings us onto our topic. What's our topic today, Ola?
So the topic today is grieving and the sort of healing process. So going through loss and pain and how being able to kind of deal with that afterwards. So yeah.
So Tezo, Lost Ones. There's two parts actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
First part, what's it all about?
First part is just going through the motions of losing someone, and just getting your head around the pain and the grieving process and how life is without that person. So like it's like learning life all over again, and that's what I say happened to me. And
so what's your story like?
Basically in 2005, after my mum having my little sister, she got diagnosed with breast cancer. So obviously she went through a battle, and then in 2007 she passed away. So for me, like being a mummy's girl and everything, and being the only girl for the longest while, and it was just my mum and my little brothers and my older brother. Like for me, that was hard, and obviously I feel like every female needs a woman, or at least some sort of a female figure to guide them through life, because as much as my dad did what he could do, but I feel like there's just certain things. You can't. Like, so obviously when I was going through my changes, like, he's not telling me about what always pack to go and get, and and for me, just going through teenagehood and trying to be a young woman and navigate through that, and in the process, like suppressing a lot of emotions. So inside there was a lot of anger and being very like in a dark place, and then from there, deciding that, I've got the ball in my court, I'm gonna do what it takes to overcome that dark phase.
Because I read it happened around your 20th birthday, right?
Yeah.
Was that a wake up to kind of like?
Yeah, like I was like,
slap yourself
yeah,
like,
20, I was just thinking of Kenya, and I was like, to be fabulous like her. So I was like, do you know what? Like, I just looked at myself in the mirror, like not just in terms of the way I look, but internally. I knew deep down that I wasn't happy for the longest time. And I was pretending. I was just so tired of pretending, and I just told myself, do you know what? Like, we're gonna start life over, and I'm just so glad I did.
So when you say start life over, was it a drastic? Was it like a change that kind of just happened? Did you just say, you know what, I'm gonna, just leave my job. I'm gonna skip uni, or was it like? Was it kind of like progressive kind of change?
It was more of I'm gonna do whatever makes Tezo happy. Because I felt like for the longest time that I had to, just put on the front and pretend for things to be okay. I just saw it as like, you know, when you put a plaster over old wound, but it still hasn't healed up. So for me, that was that basically. And for me, it was pretending to smile. And if someone was asking me, "Oh, are you okay?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm alright." Nah, I wasn't okay.
Or was that
you know,
because you didn't want to open up? Or?
it was the whole like I didn't want to open up for one because I felt like I didn't want to make other people upset. And obviously, you know, when you're grieving, like some people, it takes some people, you know, some people go through a much easier process, and some people it takes them a while. And it's like I didn't want to be that person that brought everyone else down. So I felt for me, like maybe it's just best to just keep it to myself. Like when I need to go to my room to cry, I'll cry, you know. Or if it's a thing I need to like just leave my space, then I'll just shut everyone out or have a nasty attitude. So obviously that always.
Woo!
Out, so.
Hey, stay away. Not spicy.
So yeah.
So was crying like the main sort of coping mechanism of dealing with it?
That's not.
I think being numb. I think being numb. So it's like I think for the longest time I couldn't really bring myself to be emotional. And if it was a thing I was emotional, I was too overly emotional. So I didn't have that balance.
But do you reckon there needs to be a balance? Don't you just need
I
to
feel
be
like
yourself?
when you're becoming a young adult, yes, you know, because I feel like you can't always use the fact that you're in a mood,
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
to
right.
compensate for certain things. You know, so for me, I didn't have that for the longest time, you know, and it's the fact that I just suppressed everything. Like, I just used to pretend, you know, it's all flowers and daisies when it wasn't, you know, and I felt like that was spilling into a lot of areas of my life. So in terms of like my choices, in terms of like friendships, so not being around the most positive of people,
Right.
you know, and guys, you know, not being with guys that will actually treat me in the right way, you know, or just finding different ways to fill that void, you know. So
because like a lot of people might turn to some sort of like substance alcohol or something like that. Did you have anything like that during the journey? Was there like
I just think I was just being a teenager, a very angry teenager, just where I'm coming from. But it was never a thing where I was just like destructive, because for me, like regardless of how I felt, I always knew that, you know what, school is a priority, education. I was very adamant that I was gonna go uni, I was gonna make something of myself, and some way or somehow, out of the way I was gonna use that to help someone else. I didn't know when, but I knew that I knew some way or somehow there was purpose in this. Like, it's weird, because I felt like along my journey, as I was meeting different people, like they're like, like, you know, like, you should do this, you should do that. I should do that. And I think for the longest time I didn't rate myself, and I didn't understand how strong I was at the time. It's only now that I look back, I'm like, oh, like,
is that me? Yeah.
me, like young teen. But yeah, you know.
So that process of actually writing the blog, because I have to give you credit.
Okay.
You was vulnerable. You open yourself up to everyone.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we talk about stuff on this podcast, and we're like, I should have said that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So I don't know if I could ever go to that sort of depth. Like when I read it, I was like, I don't know if I could ever pour myself out like that, because it's like you're open for the world to see, and anyone can kind of at you and kind of bring that up.
Like,
And
that didn't happen. You're lying. You want it for
for
views.
That is just pure like vulnerability. Like, I mean, kind of when you kind of uploaded that, was there a bit of?
Do you know what? It was coming up to 10 years.
Shaking hands. Like,
It was coming up to 10 years, and then I think I had a conversation with my older cousin Benedict. Shout out Benedict, love you. And,
don't know them,
but she was like to me, like, if you're gonna write it because you know you're ready. And I knew I was ready for the longest time, but it was just penning it down and writing it. That's where the issue, and you having to relive certain things. And I just thought, like, for me, I was like, there's no point in me being in a good space and me not saying if someone is in a predicament where they don't feel so good about themselves, they're going through something similar, or they're in a space where they feel like there's no way out, like for me to keep it to myself. And I just wanted to make people know, end of the day, like, just because you see someone and they may look very well put together, or you see that they're posting good tweets, you know, like they love the Lord, or, you know, everything. They're in Miami. I was in Miami last month. But everyone goes through pain, like regardless of how big or small it is. I feel like it affects everyone in some sort of way, you know. So, and plus I wanted to be a serious writer, and I just didn't want people to look at me like, oh my days, like she just writes about these things and there's nothing that we know anything about her. And I feel like the best writers, I think the best way they, you know, just connect with audience and stuff is when they're being very vulnerable. And that's one thing I've learned, you know, so.
So yeah, I give you credit for that. I guess you've had people actually message you.
Yeah.
Like, how have you handled that?
It's overwhelming because I think I want his I'm not Oprah. This is not Iyanla. This is not Jeremy Kyle. Like, but I think it's encouraging that people look at me like, oh my days, like, you went through this. Can you like drop me some jewels? I don't mind that, but if I feel like it's something very extreme, I do point them to the right people to go to, because I feel like I don't want no one to be in danger, and I don't want it to be a thing where something falls on my head. Like, listen, I don't want no police at my door. No, that is not cute. But then a lot of it is a lot of encouragement. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, when's the book coming out? I'm like, okay.
When's the book coming out?
I don't know. Give me 5 years at least. Like, let me get a degree first. So.
You don't need a degree for a book. Come on. You mean one thing at a time?
Yeah.
Cool. Going back to a point you sort of mentioned about kind of putting up a front.
Yeah.
With your sort of close friends.
Yeah.
Kind of looking back now, do you think there was an appropriate way, or did one of them have like a good way of kind of like gauging and kind of asking how you were? Because obviously a lot of people want to be left alone, whereas others do just want you to just come and ask how they are. But I don't know if you've noticed, maybe some people might have like tiptoed around you. How would you say your experience was with friends from that sort of angle?
I think my one friend Naomi, I think she could always see like when things are not alright, you know. And with her, like, she made it known. I think she made her presence known that, look, I'm there. But I think it was just me. I'm a very stubborn person. Right. So for me to like be vulnerable, for me to be vulnerable, or even for me to ask for help, like, I find oh my days, like, it is a lot.
I think a lot of people struggle with that as well.
You know. So for me, it wasn't a thing that I didn't have. I wouldn't necessarily say I didn't have anyone around me, but it was me plucking up that strength and that courage to go to people, you know, especially when people see you as the strong one. I think that's the issue with putting like labels on people, even though they may be necessarily, they're strong and they get on with things, but also check up on them, you know, because you have a lot of strong people like taking their own life, unfortunately, when you see a lot of young people. So I think it's important, even if it's a thing where not every single day you press on the subject, but go and check them, take their mind off things. You may see that, you know what, I've seen them get down in the dumps. Like, me, I love cake. Bring me my favourite cake. Like, you know.
I think that's true, because like a lot of people will say I'm there for you, or that kind of jazz. But I guess it's the action. It's actually them turning up to your doorstep and being like, here's a cake. You don't even need to say anything. Just here's the cake. Thank you. You just know that they're there for you, sort of thing. So when you are good and ready, I guess you may open up to them. You may be vulnerable. You may have that discussion with them. But I guess, you know, I haven't been through that whole process of losing someone close. When I did, I was like really young. I didn't really get what's going on. I remember being at a funeral and then life just resumed. So it didn't really have an impact on me. But I know people, especially friends, who are going through stuff as well. So like, I guess I can do the thing of saying I'm there for them, but I have to take action. Is there anything else as a friend that I could be doing or
I think words of encouragement, and say for example it's a thing that you know that they've got something big coming up, just being, oh hey, how was that thing, or you know, you're going to break a leg, or all the best with this, just trying to keep up with the events, because obviously I understand that life does go on, unfortunately, as much as you are in a space where it is painful and you're trying to navigate, and like I was saying, learn life again, you know, just make it known that your presence is there, you know. Through the last 10 years, it's been obviously me growing up, trying to navigate through womanhood and trying to find myself, and in the process grieving. And my grieving process wasn't as straightforward as some people would like to make it out to be, because I just felt like for the longest time I suppressed a lot of things. So I wouldn't speak on it, and I'll be very oblivious, and if anyone tried to pull me up on it, it's like there was constantly a wall. And so from being in that space to I think being 20 and then realising that, do you know what, like maybe some of my choices and maybe the way I connect with people, because even now I still do find it very hard to be vulnerable. Because
really?
I feel,
I'm surprised by that.
I honestly do, because I just feel like, oh my days, like, you're basically out. I've basically left myself in a position where you can kind of come and get me. Do you see where I'm coming from? Type?
It's almost like the podcast. Like, we share so much about us. It's just like, hey,
it's like someone comes up to me like, hey, I knew that you went through that in 2005.
Who are you?
So I'm learning the beauty of vulnerability, and obviously this has helped me, and I've just learned that obviously as a writer, I feel like being vulnerable births a lot of good things out of it. So
and as part of that vulnerability, obviously you sort of have siblings. How would you say what sort of happened affected you and your sort of siblings? Did it bring you guys closer? Did it kind of tear you guys apart?
I think if anything, we've always been close, but it cemented the bond. More.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a thing where, you know, everyone is very reliant on everyone, you know, and if there's something going on, you do feel that support, especially when you're much older.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like you need your siblings. You're for us anyway. Yeah.
But I guess with that, some of your siblings might have dealt with
Things differently.
So were there people who kind of disconnected from the family during that process?
I think in that process, obviously, I think there's a conflict of interest. I think when anyone passes away. So obviously in that time there was a lot going on, and I felt like a lot of it got lost in terms of focusing on the main thing, which is the children, and making sure that the children are connected to both sides. And for us, unfortunately, it didn't really work out. So so like for the longest time, we was a bit estranged from mum's family and dad. There's not much of a connection there. And to be honest, at first it used to bother me, but it doesn't bother me because I feel like sometimes different people come into your circle to not fill that void, but just, you know, just give you that support that you need and what you need at the time. You know, so that then becomes family. You know, so yeah.
So like when you say family, does that extend to friends?
So my mum's best friend, she literally was there when my mum passed away, in the same room and everything. And like for me, that's my second mum. Like, you know, she's always there. There's not a birthday she does not call to ask. There's not a week she'll be like, "How you guys? Oh, here's a bag of groceries. Here's this. Oh, how's this going on? How's that?" So you know, beautiful people. Like,
the sort of healing process, because obviously everyone is sort of different. In terms of healing, how long would you say it kind of took you in total? And like, are there sort of, because it's a hard question to answer, because some people say you never truly kind of get over it. But
I think a lot of a parent, I think you can never get over it. And I think as you get older, like, there's certain things like in my mind always like my mum would be there when I graduate, when I have my first child, when I get married, when I buy my first house. And it's like, obviously I'm getting to that process now, I'm achieving certain milestones, so it's kind of like a bittersweet thing, because I'm like, okay, she's watching, I know she's happy, but it's like, why can't you actually physically be here? You know. So for me, I think I spent most of my teenage years angry, just very angry, very annoyed, certain times I think depressed, just because it's like, on my days, like, this has happened, like, how do I navigate and get my head around this, you know? So so I think it took me, so I was 12, say up to 20, 8 years, but I think it's just an everyday process, literally one foot around the other. Some days are better than others. So.
Ups and downs. Because I don't know if there's actually going to be a time frame, because my understanding of it is you just learn how to cope with it. There's not, it's like a wound, but it does heal, but it's not like a real kind of solid heal to manage it. So it's just like, in your blog you also got the second part, which is about how to manage and how to kind of cope. Do you want to talk about some of the stuff that you mentioned?
I talked about faith, so just believing that in the midst of your pain you're going to get better. You know, and obviously for me, my faith, obviously I'm Christian, and that helps me. And for others, it's just, even if it's a small thing, like a target or something that you really want to achieve, just knowing that you're able to endure and be resilient. I said an outlet, so having something where you're able to just put your energy into it. So for me, obviously it's writing. I love going for walks, I love cake. For others, I don't know, go to the gym, go and get them packs. Like, start a business, like, do something, you know, travel the world if you have to. Like, I think one thing I would have done is just gone out of my environment and just taken in something else for a while, maybe taken a gap year or
and I think that sort of outlet is really important, because I think it's at these sort of points where people tend to struggle or fall along the waistline and kind of turn to like substance abuse and kind of like, I think like it's really important to have an outlet where you can kind of
a safe outlet.
Precisely. Definitely,
Because you said you like cleaning as well.
It is. So I just feel like, obviously, just organising things subconsciously in my mind, for me, it's like, you know what, I've done this, so okay, cool. The emotional side, let's think of practical, small ways. We're gonna, you know, sort things out.
So you had outlets. Did you have any sort of like, or find any services that were available that were useful, that showed you about outlets? Or
I think in school, they did tell me to go counselling, but at the time I wasn't ready, because I didn't. Even till now, I obviously struggle getting my feelings out. you know. So for me, I wasn't receptive of it, but I think it is necessary if you are going through that process and you generally want the help, because you can't kind of put it on the other person, because at the end of the day, they can only work on what you're giving them. You know, and I think when you're in pain and you're going through a hard time, sometimes you look at other people as if they should compensate for that, which I think is unfair, you know. So within yourself, if you feel like, do you know what, okay, this is kind of getting the best of me, I feel like I need someone impartial, because I think sometimes when it's people close to you, it's like it's harder, because it's like
sometimes it's easier to speak to a stranger.
Like they don't know you, they don't know, you know, what your pet peeves are, and if anything, they're actually trained, you know, so
and they're just there to listen.
Exactly.
But you didn't take any of this up.
No, I didn't. Don't be like me.
But kind of, would you take it now in hindsight, or you kind of like actually?
I probably would, because I think I'm open, and I think it's also having a level of maturity, because obviously I was 12, so you're still a kid essentially,
still
trying to wrap your
you're
still trying to navigate through life. So I think now I will probably take it. But I think generally speaking, I don't think there's a lot of services available, so I don't know I don't know if in the future is going to be my thing I have to sort out, but I think more things need to be open to families, especially those around a vulnerable age group, because I think it's important to not suppress things, you know.
And kind of, obviously you sort of mentioned family in terms of friendships. Were there any like specific friends that were really about that kind of showed you love and support? Because I think everyone has a different way. I think some people might sort of tiptoe around you and avoid you, whereas others would be a bit too invasive. How are you? You all right?
So obviously for me, my mum passed away in year 7, so imagine it was like quite fresh in school, so I think it was second term or third term. So imagine starting a new school, you don't really know these people, they're not really your codees like that, and then they told the whole of your full, and then you come back to school, everyone has to be, I'm so sorry, are you alright? Like, I'm thinking, just shut up, like, don't talk to me, I didn't like you before, so no shade, but just, it's very intrusive. And it's like, for me, that was like my big dark secret. And for me, if it was, I wanted to keep it as close to my heart as possible, because I didn't want people to look at me differently. So I was always very bubbly, smiley, you know, I like to have a laugh, you know, outgoing. So I didn't want people to look at me like, that's sorry kids. You know, and I still wanted people to treat me the way that they treat me before.
So it's like normally, basically.
So I think with my friends, they were like very supportive. They were like, oh my days, like, let's do this, let's do that at the time. And obviously one of my friends that I'm still friends with, she's very good with it, she's very encouraging, she knows how to, like, you know, banter me if she needs to and stuff, you know.
I think the main thing is kind of like just act normal, acknowledge it has happened, but sort of act normal, don't kind of tiptoe.
Don't tiptoe, and if it's a thing you kind of want to go in the big guns, just go, because I'm